Alrighty, today we're going to talk about drawing lines in 3D space for debugging purposes, and I'm just going to start with an example I have here, what I'm working on to show why you might want to use that. So here I'm making this big bump and clone essentially, and there's this red line pointing towards the front of the vehicle at all times, and then this white line is just a position that the controller stick is pointing towards. So while I was making this controller to make the vehicle turn towards the direction of the controller, like regardless of camera and all that, I'll probably do a separate tutorial on that, by the way. But this just helped a lot in writing the code for it, because first thing you need to know is like, okay, am I even trying to get to the correct position, like this vector 3? So by drawing a line there, it confirms like, okay, that's actually working. So this comes from an existing repository. I can only take a small amount of credit for this. So the original one here is in GDScript, and that was done 5 years ago. So that's obviously a bit out of date. It might even still work, I'm not sure. But this person here also did a fork of it to rewrite it in C#. That's not as old, but it's still a little outdated. It was last updated last year. So when I tried this one, it almost worked. There were a few things like a few name changes and a couple little lines of code that needed to be updated in order to get it to work. So what I did is I made a fork of my own from that C# fork. And I've made a few little changes from the original one. I'll go through those briefly. So this is the script, this drawline 3D script. All you really need to do is drop it in your project somewhere, and you can auto load it so that it, so it doesn't have to be on a node in your project in order to be there. So here it's just a singleton pattern, and it creates this instance. So when you access it, all you really do is you call the script name, and instance is that singleton, and then you can call any of the methods from there like this. So draw array and draw line are very similar. So I used ray here. You're basically giving it a vector 3 that's a start position and end position, and then whatever color you want. This is just RGB and alpha. This is the time it lasts, I think, and that just defaults to 0. This is something you're calling every frame, so it just redraws it, and you don't really need anything here in this particular application. And this is something I added here. So there's the ability to draw the width of the line as well. So by default, it goes to -1, and I just put that here to make it clearer. And I'm pretty sure it just draws 1 pixel in that case, and that's that red line we were looking at. So I believe the person who did the C# version did the addition of this capsule as well. So the capsule works similarly here. You have the vector 3 you're starting at, and this is just a direction, where it's pointing towards. And the slight difference here is this distance is actually what determines how long the capsule is. And the radius, of course, is pretty obvious. So color, same thing. Time, same thing. And this is another one that I added, is the density of it. So originally it was hard-coded right here. So I just changed the method, so wherever that 8 was, that I put in the density. So that way this can be changed. This is just going to be like how many lines it draws around the circumference of the capsule. So this is with it at 8, and I've uncommented that. So first let's take a look at it in that form. And see this. So there's the capsule. Pretty neat. So if you need a more clear debugging symbol, I guess, then you've got this. So, or maybe you can have some fun with effects with this too. So to show that change, let's put this up to, I don't know, 40 or something like that. And then let's go back to the distance, this argument right here. And let's say we make that 15 instead. We'll show 2 of these parameters being changed at once. So there you go. And I want to say maybe it's starting to show the slightest bit of performance lag here, or a stutter. I could be imagining it. It's very slight. But I guess when you're just constantly every frame drawing a ton of stuff like that, then you might have to consider performance. So it might not be a good idea to make it an effect, but it is very useful for debugging. So that way you're darn sure where you're pointing in this case. And one more thing here. Let's just try the draw cube. I haven't had a need for that, but let's give it a test. So we'll have instance, draw cube, and then we can see the argument. I really love Visual Studio Code's IntelliSense. So we're going to have a starting point. I'm going to put target position, which in this little project is just that white line center, which is the position that the control stick is pointing towards. It's just a vector slightly in front of the car. So that's going to be the center of the cube, and now we can see this. Half extents, I'm guessing maybe that's half of one of the cube's sides, so let's just put a value in, just put 4. And the rest I believe are default values, so those, let's see, we'll default to, the color will just be white, and the float time, whatever. It's just going to get called every instance anyway. So let's give that a shot as well. So there we go. As soon as I press on the control stick, which is when that code updates in my project anyway, you can see the cube here is, basically drawn around the center, which is that same point with that line that I had before. Pretty cool. I don't know what you need the cube for, but why not? So I'll put a link to this in the description, obviously, but all you have to do is add that file and just implement it that way and add it to the autoload. That is important. But then you'll be able to call everything just as shown there.